This is the finished Spirit of Halloween 2024 newspaper from yesterday's mystery box. Let's take a look. For everything scary, I'm GMHaunts, and welcome to what I guess could be considered part 2 of my Spirit of Halloween 2024 mystery box opening. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you saw my video from yesterday, then you'll know that just yesterday I received this mysterious package in the mail that before opening on camera, I had no idea what the contents would be, because of course this right here was the Spirit of Halloween 2024 mystery PR box. Upon opening the box yesterday, I discovered that this little monkey chime statue that was part of the package actually had a head that came off, and stored inside of his body was this mini newspaper that was folded up inside of monkey chimes. I quickly pieced together, no pun intended, that this mini newspaper was the legend for building the larger newspaper with the scraps that were inside of the package. And ladies and gentlemen, I am very happy to say that the very next day, after hours of work and a lot of tape, the full newspaper has been assembled. This newspaper is stock full of hints, clues, and references to Spirit of Halloween's past, the present, and possibly even the future. And in this video, as I promised yesterday, I'm going to do a full analysis of every article we can see on this newspaper, both on the front of it and on the back of it as well, and talk about everything that Spirit has included secret-wise for this newspaper. So right off the bat, the newspaper is entitled the Harbor Herald, which is of course a callback to Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, where the Spirit of Halloween flagship store is located, as well as the home office. And it looks like the motto of the Harbor Herald is "Where Dead Stories Come to Life." You'll also notice that underneath that, it says Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey once again. The cost of the newspaper is a whopping $19.83, which is crazy for a newspaper, but obviously the meaning of that is 1983, the year that Spirit of Halloween was founded, which again is another very nice callback on this newspaper. And then one of the biggest things that you'll notice on this newspaper is the date that it is meant to come from. Thursday, August 1st, 2024. Of course, this is the grand opening day, or what is set to be the grand opening day for the Spirit of Halloween flagship store this season. So the first article is titled "Alien Pigeon, Strange Light, and Crop Circles," and as another fun callback, it is actually written by L. Raven, of course a reference to Lord Raven, the Spirit of Halloween 2022 animatronic. And to sum this article up, it basically talks about the theory of pigeons being government drones, which was a lot of fun to read. And it also mentions that Jack Straw, of course a reference to another Spirit animatronic from 2019 and 2020, and has an interview with Jack Straw where he says he saw a blinding light that he believes to have been a UFO. It goes on to talk about that there have been some sightings of alien-like things, and that crop has been messed up and destroyed, which was confirmed by a representative of Spirit Valley Farms, of course a reference to the Spirit of Halloween 2012 ISE. Underneath that, we have an article that was written by Johnny Punk, of course the Spirit of Halloween 2020 animatronic, and this one is titled "Scare Your Neighbors Silly," with a photo of demonic Dahlia that apparently, according to the newspaper, was also taken by Johnny Punk, as it says photo credit Johnny Punk. But this one basically just talks about building a haunted house, and about using animatronics from Spirit of Halloween, using lighting, and making sure that your haunt is scary and not cuddly or friendly. It seems like this one is more of a fun article, and it doesn't really seem to have any hints or clues to anything for the future or any references from the past other than that Johnny Punk reference, but still a very fun article to read. Next to that one, we have a mini article that is entitled "Baby Takeover Zombie Storm Boardwalk," with obviously a photo of a bunch of zombie babies. And the article for this one basically talks about how in Atlantic City there were a bunch of zombie babies that stormed a boardwalk block and kind of interfered with the operation of a bunch of stores. Within this one, we get a couple of references for animatronics, including Betty Sharp and Nibbles, who apparently Nibbles, of course the animatronic from this year, offered his lollipop, his candy, to calm the babies down. So again, another very fun article, and this one was written by Rosemary of the Terror Mill Times. Obviously two references there, both to Rosemary the animatronic and the Terror Mill. And I will say this one is sort of interesting as well, because the photo credit for the photo of the zombie babies says D Creepin' Shade. Not really sure what that one's supposed to mean. Obviously, it could just be a generic name that Spirit came up with, but D Creepin' Shade, very, very interesting, and I'm curious to see if that will end up meaning anything. Looking towards the bottom left-hand side of the front page of this newspaper, you'll notice a holiday countdown that says, "Are you ready? 146 shopping days left." And obviously, this is counting down to Christmas. This is obviously also counting from August 1st, which is the day this newspaper is supposed to have been made. Underneath that, it just tells you what's on the newspaper. It says, "Inside Police Blotter, A Deadly Marriage, Ask Jack, and Help Wanted," which is more of stuff that we'll take a look at on the back of this newspaper. And then the main article for the bottom of this says, "Spirit Acre Farms Pumpkin Patch Horror. Is climate change slashing crop yields, or is it something else?" Now, this is another very interesting article, because it basically talks about how on Spirit Acre Farms, of course the Spirit Halloween 2018 ISC, the front ISC for that year, that there are some weird things going on with the crop yield, and that they are chalking it up to either paranormal activity related to ghosts or aliens, or the fact that Emmeline or possessed pumpkin is interfering with the crops that these farmers are planting. This one is kind of interesting because it has a very similar vibe to the top article about crops being slashed and broken due to some kind of weird thing beyond their control, sort of related to aliens as well, because that's also brought up within this article. Again, I am not saying anything because we have no confirmation, but I am just pointing out that it's very interesting that aliens have been brought up in both of these articles, and the only alien animatronic that we have this year from Spirit is Giant Death Ray. Again, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to get people excited or start sharing false news, because obviously, again, it's all speculation, but maybe we could see more alien-related items or even an ISE for 2025. On the right-hand side of the bottom of the newspaper, we have two mini articles, with the top one entitled, "Florida Man Scares Kids," and this one talks about Palm Beach County and some jumping spider decorations being used to scare kids. Honestly, I'm not noticing any kind of huge references or clues within that article, but underneath that one, we have an article entitled, "Mall Santa's Early Arrival," that is written from Cherry Hill. Obviously, Cherry Hill is a location in New Jersey that talks about a Santa impersonator being found at a mall that then ended up having a bunch of photos taken with a bunch of kids, once again in Cherry Hill, where a clown was very upset because he was taking a lot of attention away from the clown. Very interesting. Again, I'm not exactly sure what to make of that article either, but it definitely ties into the fact that we see a holiday countdown with 146 days until Christmas. Well, we've made it to the back of the newspaper, and in my opinion, this is when stuff starts to get really exciting, because all or most of the clues are on the back of this paper, because the top left article says subway expansion, Spirit Station Z to expand train service. Of course, Spirit Station Z was the back ISE for Spirit Halloween 2015, and in this article, it talks about how the Spirit Station Z is meant to expand their train service and get bigger, with some new routes to be added in the near future. And I will say that this article was written by Rosie Red, the haunted doll, which again is another very funny reference. And it also has a little blurb from Twitching Banshee in this article that simply says, just like on multiple lines, because obviously that is Twitching Banshee's audio. But again, a very, very interesting little article for this newspaper, because it talks about Spirit Station Z, it talks about how it's expanding, and honestly, I really don't think we would ever see this ISE come back, because Spirit doesn't really do that with like bringing ISEs back in the future, but still a very interesting article to read. Now this next section may be my favorite from the entire article because it's entitled Arts and Entertainment, and it references a character that we have never heard of before within animatronics, zombie babies, tabletops, anything like that. And as of right now, we have no idea what it is talking about because it says comedy, the strange and somewhat delusional comedy of Lucky Liz. Join us for a night of laughter with one of Atlantic City's craziest. So basically, this article goes on to talk about a show that is being held by Lucky Liz, the headliner, where she has a one-person show called The Trouble with Liz, and it's coming to Horrors Casino on August 12th. Grab tickets for this one-night-only event before they are gone. August 12th, 2024, 10 p.m. Ticket price $24.20. Obviously, this is not going to be a real event. This is something just created for the newspaper, but it begs the question, what the heck is Lucky Liz? It seems like she's kind of a clown maybe, or some kind of performer obviously, but there has never been an animatronic called Lucky Liz. There's never been a zombie baby called Lucky Liz, nothing like that. So this very well could possibly be the confirmation of a new animatronic for 2024, or maybe one that's going to come out in the future. But we have never heard of this prop or anything called Lucky Liz. Underneath that, we have a blurb talking about the Puppet Theater, which does reference Bobby Strings, of course a Spirit 2024 animatronic. And if you look to the right of that, you'll notice an article about Shirley Stab, which was just recently revealed as an online-only prop for this season. And she's actually become an author, where she writes about how terrible it is to be a housewife. Very, very fun little blurb there, and I enjoyed reading that one as well. And then finally, if you look at the right side of that, you'll notice the Harbor Horror Strip, which have two little drawings, little comic strips, with the top one actually showing Gordo, who you can actually see right there in my room in real life, and then a depiction of Gordo for the Harbor Horror Strips that says Gordo was not prepared for pumpkin spice season, and underneath that one, an actual spirit location with Jack the Reaper checking out a family, and he is saying, nah, it's just me, we're running a skeleton crew this season. Underneath that, we have a help wanted section with some really interesting jobs that the newspaper is looking for, such as an exterminator, a funeral home staff, a comedian, 3 puppies for sale. But probably the most interesting one, and the one that seems like an obvious reference to me, is the clown entertainer for a 6-year-old birthday party, because it does say event is outdoors, please bring sunglasses, which obviously seems like a reference to the Art the Clown animatronic from this year from Terrifier, who does have these sunflower glasses. The police blotter is another super interesting aspect of this newspaper because each and every little criminal description actually does reference a different animatronic. For example, 6 a.m., Misfortune Madame Morbida, of course the misfortune teller from 2013, was arrested and charged with conspiracy, fraud, and public indecency near the Spirit Clown Train Station, of course the 2013 ISE that she was from. Another one, 8 p.m., giant moviegoer asked to leave the theater after disturbing the peace during a matinee with a distracting light show emitting out of their body. Of course, a reference to Giant Death Ray from this year as his body does light up. Another really interesting part of this newspaper is the lottery, because it says the following are lottery numbers drawn over the past week, and it gives you the pick 6, and Sunday, July 21st, and the numbers 000024, and then gives you Monday, July 22nd, the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, and the 27th. Now, in my opinion, these numbers have gotta mean something. For the amount of work that Spirit put into this whole newspaper and writing each individual article, I can't imagine that the numbers would mean nothing at all and were just completely random. However, at the same time, I don't know what the numbers could mean. Some of them are very similar, such as July 24th and the 25th being 000157 and 000158, but then other ones are more spaced out, such as the 27th being 000263. I honestly have no idea what Spirit could be hinting at with these numbers, if anything at all. I honestly just think they probably are because of the amount of work that was put into this newspaper. The obituaries reference some old ISCs, such as the Terramel and the Reaper's Wharf, with the Evelyn Leach animatronic also being referenced as well. And you can also see the monthly horoscope that has the Leo celebrity being towering Tallulah, as well as Pennywise on there, which is nice to see. And then you'll also notice a Ask Jack section, which is a lot of fun to read. The witchy woman asks Jack the Reaper for a recipe, which again is just kind of funny that Jack the Reaper would have a recipe like that. And he also responds to the crawling creature, which is a lot of fun to read as well. And if you look underneath the Ask Jack section, which by the way is meant to be like an advice column like you would see in a real newspaper, underneath that we have the letters to the editor, which has some really interesting things that I'll talk about in just a second. And then to the left of that we actually have a word search, and if you look at the word list, we have Spirit of Children, Giant Deathray, Wanda Webworth, and Lucky Liz again. This is the second time that Lucky Liz has been referenced on this newspaper, so obviously she has to have some kind of meaning for this newspaper and maybe for the future of Spirit of Halloween, because she was referenced 2 times. Finally, the very last thing that I wanted to point out in this video was the last letter to the editor, and the one that is at the very bottom right hand corner of the back of this newspaper, as it says, always read the fine print. I really enjoyed last week's open-ended article on the importance of reading the fine print when signing documents. I do wish someone would have given me this advice 14 years ago, as it turns out you should always read binding contracts, especially when you're making I can't read that word, honestly, I can't see what it is, something of a deal. Now this stands out to me as being really interesting because first of all, it's the last thing of this newspaper. It's the bottom right hand corner of the back page, there's nothing else to it, and it's the last thing that Spirit wrote. Even more than that, I think it's super interesting because it's explicitly telling us always read the fine print. I think this is Spirit openly coming out to us and telling us, hey, read all of the articles because we are definitely going to be giving you hints, references, and clues within this newspaper. It honestly just seems like that to me because it totally stands out as something that's not related to Halloween, but something that Spirit is kind of like slowly giving us to us, like secretly at the bottom of this newspaper. So if anything, I think this letter to the editor 100% confirms that we have to read all the articles and pick up on all the clues that Spirit is providing to us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up my full in-depth analysis of the Spirit of Halloween 2024 mysterious newspaper that came out of the PR box from yesterday. But Spirit, if you're watching this video, thank you so much for sending me the PR box from this season, this one right here, and I applaud you for raising the bar once again with how awesome the contents are. And this little puzzle, I guess you could say the puzzle of the newspaper, was a lot of fun to put together. But I guess, remember as always, for everything scary, I'm GMHaunts. I also goes editor for more Spirit of Halloween 2024 videos. Goodbye.